This is It's Not in the Syllabus podcast, the how-tos of a student beyond classroom walls. This is the podcast where you, yes you, get to learn what they don't teach you at school and ace that test called life, or at least get a passing grade and get by. It's Not in the Syllabus is a podcast brought to you by the Adventist International Institute of Advanced Studies, together with the Student Association, where we feature stories by the students and for the students. Join us as we discover life lessons you'll surely need.
Welcome to another episode of It's Not in the Syllabus, the autos of the students beyond class wall. In this month, we are talking about meaningful life as a graduate student. So today we are going to talk about academic integrity or digital literacy and academic integrity. So today, to discuss this topic with us, we have the privilege to have Elder, I'll call him Elder, but he's Chisomo Ngala. How are you, sir?
Chisomo Ngala.
Ngala.
I'm doing very well.
Very good.
How about you?
I'm doing good. If it was Ngola, I will just add an A, then it will be Angola.
It will be Angola, but Ngala.
It's Ngala.
Ngala.
Good. And yes. Elder Ngala comes all the way from Malawi, Adventist University,
yes,
which he has been a teacher in Malawi Adventist University. He teaches there actually, but he's here at AIIAS for his PhD in business. He's a PhD candidate in the business department. So he has a vast experience as a business teacher, and he's also, I know that he's into research. He's a statistician from Malawi Adventist University. Am I correct?
Yeah, very correct.
Good. Yeah. So we are going to help us discuss a little bit on digital literacy and academic integrity. As we begin our conversation, I think it's essential that we have to define those two terminologies. So how do we define digital literacy and academic integrity?
Indeed, before you discuss an important concept,
yeah,
it's important to define it first.
Okay.
So when we talk about digital literacy,
correct,
we're simply talking about the ability of an individual to use digital technology.
I like that. The ability of an individual to use technology. Very correct.
That's the basic definition. And when you talk about literacy, it's now mainly it's talking about integrity, academic integrity. When you get this literacy, when you get this knowledge, there is also an attachment to academic integrity, which has got something to do with the ethical principles.
Correct.
And these principles should guide your academic work.
Okay.
Yes.
So in two perspectives, we have ability of using technology and ability of applying ethical concepts as you are using technology. So how can then we are living in a digital or in a world that is digital. We cannot avoid it. And in fact, that is the reason why we have you here, because you are into technology, you like it, and I know you are passionate about it. But when we look at it, the world is constantly changing. So how can we then focus the way of how can we establish a digital literacy in academic integrity in the world that is constantly changing?
It's challenging, but at the same time, it offers a platform for opportunities, quite several opportunities.
Okay.
The world is actually changing very fast. So also digital platforms are also changing.
Yeah.
And that poses some challenges to the way you should be able to acknowledge, be accountable, as well as the way you should handle information.
Okay.
Not only in academia, but world over.
Yeah.
But on the other side, let's appreciate that as the world is changing, these changes are here to stay.
All right.
And we'll see a lot of dynamic changes that will continue to take place in the digital platforms, in the way people access information.
Yeah.
Students do their research.
Yeah.
Would also follow the same trends.
Yeah. So if then we agree that the world is constantly changing, we need to have an overview of how then institution, particularly academic institutions, should empower students how to use digital literacy in their endeavor. So how can institutions do that?
Okay. As every change, usually at the beginning, there would always be some resistance here and there.
Yeah.
I remember some time back, like in Malawi back home, when they were introducing the calculator, scientific calculator in an exam. It was an issue. But in our present time, let's appreciate that these changes are here to stay, and technology is should be integrated as part of academic work.
All right.
What we should emphasize more is how we can become competent, but as well be responsible on how we handle the information that is available. One thing I've noted is that we no longer have challenges with information.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, but our challenge now is we are now overwhelmed
with information.
With too much information. Now, how to sieve it through, to navigate it through these platforms to get the right information is what is critical. And in academia, we should find mechanisms and ways on how to take advantage of that and move into those arena.
So maybe if you can at least share one, how can institution move in that regard?
In that regard, is to accept that artificial intelligence is there.
Okay.
And if they accept, develop some comprehensive guidelines.
Policies.
All right.
Because
there's a thin line between what we traditionally knew as academic and the academic we're getting through the online platforms and the digital platforms.
All right.
It poses a challenge of you can't really tell if this is the original work or not.
That's the ethical part.
That's the
ethical part.
So because of that, institutions have the mandate. Because institutions should be the upfront of adopting and embracing these digital technologies. But while we are doing that, we should also make sure that we put mechanisms in place, we provide support, and establish open system mechanisms in the institution where you establish dialogues with the students. Students should be able to talk about the challenges they encounter as they are trying to access information and in these platforms. Yes.
Well, I think that is good because an institution should provide policies to guide students how to use some artificial intelligence when you talk about digital literacy. But then we then need to know how can academic institution harness the playful aspect of digital technology to foster critical thinking and creativity without sacrificing academic rigor and ethical responsibility? Is that possible?
It's very possible. Let's understand that play is part of human development.
All right.
Not only human development, but it's also part of critical mind growth.
All right.
We're talking about emotional growth. We're talking about how we can handle situations like these.
All right.
So when we look at it from that aspect, it's important that play can easily become part of academia.
Play
can become part of it. We're talking about gamification these days. There are quite a lot of games that can be used in academia that can be incorporated in the curriculum. So while the students are involved in these games, they would also be learning one or two things. So they will be learning properly the curriculum. But at the same time, it also the games also enhance critical thinking. Because they say all work, no play makes Jack a dull boy. So incorporating these plays as part of the curriculum is also very critical in our time. And you notice that when you talk about digital technology, digital technology has come with these aspects. There's a game play part of it, which we can take advantage. There are quite a number of courses that you talk about it. Investment management. We'll be talking about issues of how to use Monopoly as a game to train people how to be critical thinker or critical investors.
So, the critical part or critical thinking, I do not have issue. But let's look at some time ago, teachers will say students are not allowed to use cell phones in the classroom. And for various reasons. I think it was for them to get results of their questions and so forth. But today, How can you mention about gamifications? How can we go to a class where supposedly we should use our phones to play for us to do our exam?
That is still debatable in other parts of the world. But if you go to more advanced economies and the like, they have embraced some of these technologies into the classroom, and the use of cell phone has become part of the of the process. Let me give you an example. There might be a situation where you want to make an inference or a reference to a certain article.
Yeah.
And at that particular moment, you can allow students get access to the materials that they have in their phones. Because these days, when you talk about a cell phone, it's part of a mobile computer. Yeah. The advancements that have been made in cell phones have embraced all the needed aspects of what a computer can do. Yes. So, including the cell phones in such kind of situations, it would become very handy. But I want to mention that examinations are not everything. Yeah. Examination should not be
and
the
this is
end.
Coming from a teacher.
Yeah.
A lecturer.
You know, in contemporary education, there have been some debates about whether we should continue concentrating on exams or concentrate on competencies. So you notice that using of cell phones is part of development of the competencies that are actually there. So while we are debating along those lines, let us accept that just as we debated more about the calculators, we will continue debating about the cell phones up to until we embrace them and accept that they are part of academia.
And I just want to speak about the debate of cell phone and so forth. This is not a question. Yes. I remember a few years ago when Facebook was booming. You know, you go to a pastor will tell you, "Hey, Facebook is evil." But now today we see pastor using Facebook to spread the gospel. So as you rightly mentioned, it's about time.
It's about time.
We can then begin debate of something, but as time goes by, we're going to accept it and realize, this should be part of it. So I wanna ask now. How can academic institutions cultivate critical digital literacy skills that enable individuals to navigate diverse perspectives and engage in constructive dialogues?
I would think that digital technology should be part of the curriculum.
Good.
Every course should have that aspect.
Okay.
Assignments could be submitted through the online platforms.
Yeah.
So that then along the way, students get to familiarize with these digital platforms, because when you allow these digital platforms to be used in the curriculum, there is an element of kind of responsibility. Okay. So that when they get out of the curriculum and they go out, possibly on the online platforms like social media, then they would still be responsible. But when they get technology, only learn about it when they're already on the social media, there are certain aspects that they would miss. So apart from that, we incorporate it to become part of the curriculum. Yeah. But there should also be some chances for the students to give an input. Okay. Let them talk about how they feel about new technologies that they have. Yeah. They are coming with their way. Yeah. One thing I've noted, Eddie, is that we are dealing with technological techs. These guys, digital techs, are here. Yeah. And they have embraced technology before they think about academia. Okay. So they are already way ahead of us. So if academia will remain behind, it will become very difficult to embrace and move together with these guys. Okay. So let us all come to the round table discussion together with the students. Okay. Ask them. Our curriculum should be flexible. Okay. Because when you talk about technology, it also brings in experiential learning within the academia. Yeah. And then that will be the moment where the organizations or institutions can begin now talking about issues of integrity. That will be the platform. I see. But if you cannot alienate these and talk about integrity, and then they only see it from outside, it becomes very difficult.
Wow. I think curriculum should play a very vital role, in which they should be modified that to meet student digital literacy.
Maybe just to add on that, you will notice that with the pandemics,
correct,
the platforms, we are moving away from face-to-face anymore.
Yeah,
it's
not a mandatory per se, but it's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
We are moving, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
The pandemics have helped to transform, and we are moving towards acceptance of the online platforms.
Yeah.
So when I say let them come and be integrated at part, and that's the key. Yes.
I see. I like that. Someone said that I think the only good thing that pandemic brought was that people learn that technology, we can work without going to our workplace. We can do many things without moving from one place to another.
That's very true, Eddie.
Yeah.
But that also works on assumption that there would be a time where we would have humanless.
Yeah, it will.
Humanless world.
It's coming up.
Yeah. We might be going that direction,
Yeah.
but we still need the human element.
For sure.
We still need to talk, because these are issues now
Yeah.
that will hinge on issues of honesty, issues
integrity,
of issues of responsibility.
Correct.
On how to determine that. You should understand that when we talk about machine learning, we are talking about algorithms that have created some content and they are programmed, and usually they are based on data that is user prescribed, as well as past behaviors. But when it comes to our current knowledge and our current behavior, we need the human aspect of it to move us forward.
For sure. So we are now going to talk something very in a personal level as a teacher, as a lecturer. So how can you teach students to ethically engage with digital resources in a world where information is readily available and often presented without clear attribution?
When we talk about attribution, earlier on I said that the digital techs are way advanced.
Yeah.
And possibly that would pose a challenge of misattribution, or maybe not attributing anything to acknowledge.
Yeah.
To acknowledge other people's work.
Yeah.
That becomes very difficult, because that's plagiarism.
Yeah. It's the sin of academia.
It's in academia that is unforgivable. Unforgivable sin. So if we engage them and empower as well as the lecturers should also be trained to embrace these technologies. Otherwise we'll lose these techs. They will get away from us, because they know some of these things quite well. They are more advanced in this area. So when we engage them, when we talk with them, they will be able to make suggestions as well, and say, okay, this is how we do it. But apart from that, academia should put mechanisms in place.
All right.
I mentioned of support. I mentioned of engagement, but let us also enhance the mechanisms that prevent some dishonest actions that students may engage in. A student is a student. They would always
he will do anything to find ways so that he can excel to a next class.
Sure.
This is a particular case that I was involved in, where I was teaching back home, and a student submitted a paper. I was teaching research. I taught research for a particular school, not an Adventist school, it's a secular school. So I taught research, and I gave them assignments. I told them to write a paper. One of the class requirement was that they should write a paper. But I understood it was a class of 153 students.
Big class, the size of a big class, yes.
153 students approximately. So I made group. So that they write their projects by group.
Group work,
which is good. So some group they wrote, but then I had the privilege of having a Turnitin account. And Turnitin is a particular tool that detect where it detects similarities if you have copies from this source, if you're given adequate credibility of information of the owner of blah blah blah. So I said, okay, fine. I received the papers of the students. Then I put them all in Turnitin to see 100% copy and paste.
Copy and paste.
Copy and paste. And this is those are graduate, undergraduate students. I came to a class and I said, guys, we all failed.
Yeah.
No, we wrote. You know, they.
Yeah, always.
We did our. It's our work. And then I call one by one
Check.
group responsible for the whole group. Come check this. They were shocked. You know what they said? They never saw it. Now this comes actually a question. There are institutions where they do not have all these tools in place.
Yes.
But then I also, if they don't have those tools in place, I wonder what kind of thesis the undergrads are producing and their credibility. So now we are talking about, this is maybe, we are not moving away from our topic. Maybe someone is the owner of an institution, but they don't have enough resource. How can you ensure academic integrity when you don't have enough resource to pay or to buy those tools that detect dishonesty?
Eddie, that's a catch-22. It's either you spend or you compromise quality of research that an institution is producing.
Yeah.
When we talk about higher education, we cannot divorce it from research.
Yeah.
The research becomes an integral part of higher education. So when an institution lacks such kind of instruments, such kind of tools, it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
I looked at the other side when I mentioned earlier on about if the focus is too much on the exam, then other side suffers.
Correct.
So there should be a balance. We're not saying exams are bad.
Yeah.
In fact, exams have always been part of academic work.
Yeah.
But what we are saying is, if there is a chance to invest, let the institutions invest.
Yeah.
That aspect is very important. But as I've mentioned, let's also develop a sense of honesty in the students.
Okay.
There has to be, we've mentioned about the frameworks, like guidelines, policies in place.
Yeah.
But also apart from that, the consequences. I'm beginning to think what happened. Was it just an F? Because in other institutions that are serious about issues of plagiarism, and it should warrant a dismissal.
Yeah, it does.
It does warrant a
AIIAS
dismissal.
also,
Yes, it's a
AIIAS.
warrant for dismissal to that particular dishonest student.
Yeah.
But of course, we want to redeem. We want to make sure that we are part of us and the students. It's always important that we exhaust all the ways that are available to make sure that the student is redeemed and understands that there are certain acts in an institution of higher learning that are not tolerable.
Okay.
Yes.
So there must be a framework where the students are taught to be honest.
To be honest and be responsible. You mentioned about attribution earlier on. Where it's not very difficult. I find it funny at times when we look at research and acknowledging somebody's work as something very difficult. You can paraphrase the same statement as long as you mention that I got this point from so and so.
Yeah.
Because what we are talking about also goes to intellectual property.
Correct.
It also goes to creative minds. Because when a student copies, automatically has taken a shortest path.
Correct.
In that moment, in that situation, I'm sure that the student did not think. Just copied and put it there.
Easy.
But academic is meant to make someone a critical thinker.
Yeah. Wow. We are enjoying our conversation. We are enjoying our conversation to a point that it's getting out of place with good points. But we are going to take a break at this moment. We're gonna be right back. But stay there, be tuned as we are coming back from the break. We are just going to drink water, and you also do the same. We are coming back.
Marhaba and Mabuhay from AIIAS in the Philippines. My name is Anoop Dominic and I'm a student here at AIIAS for the PhD program in business.
Hi, my name is Natasha Nangoy Sinaga and I am studying for the degree of PhD in business.
I want to give you 3 reasons why my family and I chose the PhD program and moved here and made AIIAS our home. Well, the 3 reasons are: number 1, the rich diversity on campus. You look around and you see people from everywhere.
Here at AIIAS, the business department aims to prepare leaders who are professionally competent, socially responsible, and ethically upright to serve in organizations in a global setting. My professors here at AIIAS are intellectual, inclusive, and dedicated to their students' professional and academic growth.
Number 2, we have an awesome campus. It's a beautiful campus, beautifully landscaped, and a great place to sit, think, study, and it's been a pleasant experience for me so far.
My experience as a student is that we are given invigorating tasks to accomplish. We learn both formally and informally through different avenues by taking courses on campus and online, through research and business consultancy, by involvement in business social clubs and community service, and through our interactions with people from various representations.
Number 3, we have a competitive program, a program for professionals like me, coming from the professional world, going to the professional world. It's a great program that suits all.
At AIIAS Business Department, we are also encouraged to be autonomous and independent, but at the same time, a nurturing environment is provided for us to foster teamwork and collaboration. Hence our motto, we make it happen.
Come, we welcome you. Come and experience AIIAS and the PhD program in business.
Come to AIIAS and be part of the business department.
All right, welcome back to our episode of It's Not in the Syllabus. We are now talking of digital literacy and academic integrity with teacher, lecturer, and the business student in the PhD department, Elder Chisomo Ngala. Yes. I did not make the mistake again.
Yeah.
So earlier on, you say that we need to put together a framework of that teaches students to be honest, to be critical thinkers, because if they fail to be critical thinker, then it's a different part. So how can then an institution foster culture of academic integrity that emphasize original thoughts and responsible use of online resources?
Let us appreciate that the online resources, there is quite a lot that we can learn from there.
All right.
But not everything out there is genuine.
Correct.
There is a lot of misinformation. So an institution should take deliberate measures, should make deliberate efforts to make sure that it follows through what is happening and what is incorporated in its curriculum. What are the acts within the organization that happen. When we're talking about your experiences with your students, the students should also appreciate and acknowledge that there are consequences for my actions. If I'm caught, it's the same we do with you find a student is cheating in an exam. There are correction measures that are actually meted on that particular. So it's the same. Just as we take research and search for information on online platforms as something serious, let's also be serious with the actions that would follow if someone misrepresent whatever they can find on the
I like that. I like that the fact that every actions there's also a consequence. But look at this way, teacher or professor. I'll call you professor.
It's a privilege.
Prophesy. So look at this way. We are now immersed in digital. Not digital, but we are immersed in artificial intelligence. We have artificial intelligence for even to do our papers. So how can an institution foster some guidelines or ways that students can use artificial intelligence for their research?
artificial intelligence is not an enemy to academia.
Okay.
In fact,
but it robs your critical thinking.
It does when it's not used properly.
Okay.
Because the thing is, it should guide. Let's take it as any other tool.
Okay.
Any digital tech tool.
Yeah.
That can be used. Because when you say it robs your critical thinking, it depends on the use.
Let me rephrase it.
Yes.
It might.
It might. Yes, it might.
So nobody can quote me on that one. It might rob.
It might rob.
Yeah.
But it all depends on the way it's been used.
On the way you use it.
Yes. Artificial intelligence, as I mentioned earlier on, I think I remember I mentioned something like its platform is based on algorithmic data processes that are based on previous user prescriptions, desires, values, and beliefs, as well as at the same time, it's based on past behaviors.
Correct.
But this, when we want to use it, and the AI has generated everything for you, where is your voice as a researcher?
Okay. Research voice.
Research voice. Because you as a researcher should now come in to bring something new, something others have not looked at. If others have looked at it, you pick an angle that you say, okay, this is my contribution. But if you just copy, then it becomes problematic. But I've also observed that institutions should encourage defenses of a student's work.
Okay.
Allow the student to make a presentation. In the presentation, I think you can evaluate and tell that this guy is talking from an AI point of view, or is giving us what we expect.
You know, like what we have on our previous podcast with Dr. Leroy, we talk about finding your purpose in research.
Okay.
And speaking of defense, I have a different view. I think during defense, students are more panic than anything. I'm not saying maybe student, but I'm speaking on based on me, what I feel. It gives you a sense of fear, insecurity that you're not capable of doing it. And if you had present, some of us, we mix words, instead of say B, we say I, instead of say I, we say C. So sometimes you might even catch the student, but that fear, that moment.
I was just trying to triangulate the mechanisms that we can use to make sure that the AI does not replace a student's critical thinking. What we should emphasize is there has to be a responsible use.
I like that.
A responsible use of artificial intelligence. When an institution has embraced and has accepted the use of artificial intelligence, does not replace all traditions that the student can just go into AI and copy everything. Then that becomes a problem. What we are talking about is, I've mentioned earlier on, we need to train these students on how to use AI.
Okay.
Because AI is just a tool. AI is just a platform where it can give us some insights here and there. But we don't want that to replace my own voices. We don't want it to replace the way I think. I don't want to be animated. I don't want to become a robot and the machine becomes the human. I don't want that situation. I want to be able to tell artificial intelligence what I need, because I've thought about it. I've gone through the whole process. One thing I've noted is that there is a challenge of focusing too much on output other than on the process. That's why we talked about an issue about exams and the like. If research defenses become problematic, then there is a problem also in them. There has to be a way of going about that.
All right, we're not going to stretch much on that point.
It continues to debate.
To be debatable. So we are getting to the end of our conversation, and we are now want to know the last approach, that what role should institution play in fostering a culture of academic integrity in a digital world?
Academic integrity hinges on ethics.
Okay, I like that.
when you talk about ethics, is what is right.
Yeah.
An institution should establish what is right for our students and our institution in as far as the use of AI and digital technology is all about. When we do that, then we'll empower the students, allow the students the taste of digital techs in their curriculum, allow the lecturers also be empowered and be trained.
All right.
Because you may find that in your case you were able to detect that there is plagiarism taking place here because you were empowered. You know what you needed to be done.
Yeah.
But there would be a lecturer who is not tech savvy.
Yeah.
In that moment, these papers would pass.
Hey, all of them.
All of them would pass, and then so teachers should also be involved. The other issue is about communication.
Communication.
The way the institution communicates with students, that sends some signals on how the student would behave, even beyond the walls of that particular university.
All right.
Sure.
So I learned that you said three things:
ethics,
and then involvement of teachers. And then we look at the last one is communication. I think that is a good way, because what I see. And this, I was just reading the academic bulletin of AIIAS. I did not see a point where we talked about now artificial intelligence. But then there is academic integrity.
Yes.
In a general sense.
Yes.
But then there is, I think, an element that is missing for digital literacy and so for academic integrity as well. So, Prof, thank you so much for being with us today. We had a good experience. We learned a lot. But before we finish our program, we usually have an advertisement series. In advertisement series, what we do is we know where the student, where the faculty, where the staff is coming from. So he needs to say something about his or her department. Now, I know that you're coming from the AIIAS business department, graduate school.
Yes.
And what could be some of the advantages? Someone is watching this podcast and say, I want to come to AIIAS. I want to come to AIIAS for my PhD in business. But what could be those things that a student should really come to AIIAS, that you say, okay, come to AIIAS because of one, because of two?
Support.
Wow, I like that.
Support
is broad.
Support is broad.
Yeah.
Support from the lecturers, from the professors.
I want you to look at that camera.
Yes, the professors take an extra mile. They make sure that they support you. They are moving with you to the end.
All right.
That's one thing I've learned. The other one is the program is very flexible.
All right.
If you are in business, you want to do marketing, you're flexible to do marketing.
Yeah.
If you want to do human resource, so the curriculum was panel beaten in such a way that it will allow this flexibility.
Yes.
Bringing in a lot of experiences
Correct.
according to the people's background. So it would be wise to come to AIIAS and experience what others have experienced as well.
Correct, because when you come to AIIAS, particularly in the business department, they make it happen. And I like what you said. There is faculty support from AIIAS department. They carry you through until you finish. And then there is flexibility in the program. So in the AIIAS department, in the AIIAS graduate school business department, you will find business, you will find marketing,
human resource, accounting,
finance.
Yes,
and these are just the PhD. Of course, there's also masters in these areas. So come to AIIAS, considering AIIAS business department, PhD or masters if you wish, and your life will never be the same again. Elder, Professor, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for discussing with us about digital literacy and academic integrity. We hope to see you in our next podcast. Until then, see you and God bless you.
Bye-bye. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.